Mike Renner, Pro Football Focus lead draft analyst, co-host of the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. You can head over to Pro Football Focus. That's pff.com. Use the promo code DRAFT30 for 30% off any PFF subscription. Mike, thanks for joining us again. We were talking about Jordan Love, that you get these cryptic comments from the Packers that, hey, Aaron Rodgers is our quarterback for the foreseeable future. Like at some point they have to decide, can Jordan Love play? Because, what are you going to do? You don't want to wait till he's in his fourth or fifth year. But if Jordan Love was coming out this year, where would he rank with these other quarterbacks?
I think he'd be in that second tier. So there's that top tier of 5 that's probably all going to go in the top 10. And he'd be in that second tier with guys like Kellen Mond from Texas A&M, Kyle Trask from Florida, and Davis Mills from Stanford. Because, yeah, he's talented, but, man, the bad that he put on tape back in 2019, the turnovers, people are going to make the Trey Lance comparisons with him because small school, big arms, athletic dudes. But he just threw the ball to the other team far too much, and Trey Lance did not.
What's the Packers' strategy here?
Man, if I knew, I would love to tell you. I don't know what it is. I think they thought Rodgers was nearing the end. They didn't think they were as good as they were last year to be competing for a Super Bowl, and thought that it was kind of a fluke. Now obviously the quarterback's the most valuable position on the football field. I'm not going to knock a team for wanting to address that, but man, they had, he wasn't going to play on his rookie contract if Aaron Rodgers plays out his contract there, which kind of just robs you of what everyone's looking for, is that cheap quarterback in the NFL. So it didn't really, in my opinion, make sense.
How do you separate fact from fiction with what the Niners are going to do, expected to do, rumored to be doing?
There is no one knows. I've talked to guys in the 49ers organization, says Kyle's not talking. Kyle's not telling anybody. It is his decision, and he is going to be the one that makes it. So fact or fiction, he's going to blow smoke as much as he possibly can from now until draft day, because it does not behoove him. Similar to when the Browns, no one knew who they were taking Baker Mayfield until the day before. It doesn't behoove him to tip his hand at all in this situation.
Yeah, and it's not similar, but I thought of Blake Bortles when Jacksonville surprised everybody and took Blake Bortles. I think the surprise is they might take Mac Jones. Was he worth going up to get at number 3? And where did Pro Football Focus grade Mac Jones?
Yeah, so if he's 5th in the draft class for us, so obviously we would go elsewhere. But like I said, the cheap quarterback is so valuable in today's NFL. The amount of money you're saving with a third overall pick there compared to what they're paying Jimmy Garoppolo, that's 2 starters you can add to your team. So the 2 future first rounders they gave up, well, they can go just sign 2 guys in free agency with that cap space. It's not necessarily that big a deal that they gave up those 2 first rounders. But to me, he's just not at the level. You're going to have to go through Aaron Rodgers in the NFC. He's obviously not the level of Aaron Rodgers physically and what he can do with his arm. You're going to have to go through a Bucs defense in the NFC that's loaded and going to make you throw down the football field. And that's where Mac Jones is obviously the weakest. I do think that there are serious concerns. I would be shooting for the fences if I'm giving up 3 first rounders to go up and get one guy.
Who would you take?
I'd take Justin Fields from Ohio State. I don't get the massive criticism why he's falling down boards. I don't know how many quarterbacks in NFL history have, with his sort of ability in terms of runs a 4.4, has a strong arm, can make plays outside the pocket, and is the most accurate quarterback in this class on throws 10+ yards down the football field. That's a winning combination. The blitz stuff, the processing stuff, yeah, it's real, but those things can be fixed.
But what are we missing, Mike? Because I had a scout tell me 3 weeks ago, people are over analyzing Justin Fields. You need to simplify what you see. It's almost like we've seen too much. We like the mystery of Trey Lance and maybe the mystery of Mac Jones, if that's possible, to be an Alabama quarterback and be a mystery, whereas Justin Fields did this in front of us.
Yeah, it's almost the NBA draft with Trey Lance. It's ooh, what could he be? Well, what he is right now is probably a guy who's not ready to play in the NFL. I think Fields is ready. And like I said, not a lot of guys with his level of tools. You can't teach Mac Jones to run a 4.4. You can teach Justin Fields to get faster. And I think a lot of those criticisms are also just Ohio State's offense. It's a downfield passing offense. They are throwing the ball deep. And even when there is blitzes, there's no hot reads for him to get the ball out of his hands quickly. So I do think he is being very much overanalyzed in this scenario.
We're talking to Mike Renner, Pro Football Focus lead draft analyst. Kyle Pitts, he's receiving as much verbal bouquets as Jadeveon Clowney, it feels like. Like, is it too much here?
I honestly don't think it is. It's who can go over the top the most in their praise for Kyle Pitts at this point, and it's really is the way he moves for a guy who's 6'5", almost 6'6", 245 pounds. Those guys don't exist on NFL fields. They exist on basketball courts. They exist, in other sports. You just don't see guys with his level of movement skills and then contested catch ability. And he's got the biggest wingspan ever measured for anyone at a pro day. And it's just all these sort of things piled together. And I think you look at why tight ends fail in the NFL. It's because they can't go out and beat cornerbacks. If you just wanted to put Richard Sherman on Jason Witten, in his prime, Richard Sherman would shut Jason Witten down. So Kyle Pitts, though, you saw him go up against top cornerbacks in college football on the outside, winning one-on-one consistently. And that's when it's like, this guy's kind of what everyone's looking for, because he's not going to be guarded by cornerbacks. He's going to be guarded by linebackers and safeties. And it's a win every time.
What would you say to the Falcons if they ask for some kind of advisement strategy?
Well, one, I would say hopefully someone wants a Trey Lance or Justin Fields who's sitting there, because that, if you can get the same deal that the Dolphins got, you go ahead and take that in a heartbeat. But then after that, I say you thank your lucky stars that Kyle Pitts is sitting there, because guys like that don't get picked fourth overall. Fourth overall picks are usually like Dante Fowler. There's guys that are sitting there usually number 4 overall that aren't as sure a thing as Kyle Pitts is.
Do you like wide receivers in the top 10?
I go back and forth on this, because you can find them in the second round. You can find them in the third round. I mean, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin in recent years, it is possible. But when a guy is as good as, in my opinion, Jamar Chase from LSU, you take that certainty, because it's a valuable position. What that guy brings to the table, it just changes defenses and what they have to do to you. So, yeah, when you're that good, I'll go ahead and take Jamar Chase.
I saw where Pro Football Focus likes the wide receiver I think is going to be a steal, Elijah Moore. He might not be a steal, though, as we get closer to the draft, because he's gotten a whole lot of publicity. And you really got to go out of your way to watch Ole Miss games or something, and you're. But he is – it feels like he's going to be great at the next level.
Yeah, to me, he's closer to that first tier of wide receivers that everyone's talking about than he is to the second tier of wide receivers. He is now 5'9" and played in the slot. And everyone's just going to say, okay, that's a slot receiver at the next level. Now, there's a track record for guys like Brandon Cooks, Tyler Lockett, T.Y. Hilton, who have been same size, but you got to be an elite athlete, and that's Elijah Moore. And if you go back and look at his production, yeah, he had like 500 fewer yards than Devontae Smith. He played 5 fewer games, though. He only played 8 games this past season, put up almost 1,200 yards, was utterly dominant down the stretch there for him. And when he went and got pressed by J.C. Horn, the South Carolina cornerback, who might be the first defensive player in this draft, couldn't touch him. And that's what you worry about when guys going on the outside instead of playing the slot. And when he got pressed in the slot, no one could touch him.
Give me your thoughts and Pro Football Focus's thoughts on the Chiefs' strategy here. They've rebuilt their offensive line. Can they sustain this style?
To me, they're playing a dangerous game. I'm scared to what that roster might look like in 4 years, because now they're going to have 8 guys once they sign Orlando Brown to whatever, making over $14 million a year, by far the most in the NFL. Everyone said the Rams are, a super top heavy team, giving up all these first rounders. They only have 6 guys making $14 million plus a year. So you have to fill out your roster then. When you have that many guys making that much money, you got to have cheap players. And when you don't have picks now, like they're about to not have picks for a while, they're not going to find cheap players on rookie deals. And so I think in a few years, if guys like, Tyreek Hill, Chris Jones, any of those guys they're paying a ton of money to, even Travis Kelce's into his 30s now, if they start going downhill and aren't worth that money, aren't that impact player, or even they get hurt, something like that, your window is closing. And you got the best quarterback in the game. You should be going the Patriots route, where you got a 20-year window instead of just a 1-year window, because we see how fluky that can be year in and year out.
If you're Pittsburgh, are you taking a running back?
Hell no. And they, of all people, should know, having seen what James Conner did in their first year there with the good offensive line, and then seeing the offensive line go downhill, losing Marcus Gilbert at right tackle, losing Ramon Foster, having Alejandro Villanueva decline in his 30s, and then all of a sudden James Conner looking pedestrian. They should know that that's the biggest driver to success for a running back, is that offensive line in front of them. And then when you have a good offensive line, it's like, oh yeah, that helps you in pass protection too, which is what everyone is looking for. So to me, deep tackle class, it'd be a no-brainer to go offensive tackle for them.
How long ago were you on The Bachelor?
3 years ago. Actually, right now, okay, so I was off by now, but 3 years ago during draft season, I was out there in LA.
Were you doing draft coverage while you were competing on The Bachelor?
So you don't have a phone when you're out there. You can't connect with humanity. But I would be asking the producers, because this was during free agency. I'd be like, "Hey, where'd Josh Sitton sign? You know, like, where did these guys sign?" And they're like, "Why do you care?" I'm like, "Just tell me where they signed."
Tell me something about The Bachelor that I don't see.
You barely get to talk to the girl. Like, so Becca on my season, I was there 3 weeks. Talked to her less than an hour total. 3 weeks of time. I talked. So like, I went out there thinking it's just, you're gonna get to hang out with this girl. No, not even close.
Is alcohol always available?
So it is. I was right after some like scandal on it to where they limit you to 2 an hour. But I figured out a way around that where it's like if you start going 2 an hour early enough in the day, you can stockpile them and then you can drink later in the day.
How long did it take for you to make out with Becca?
I never did. That's what I say. Like within an hour of meeting someone, it just felt weird. So I never did.
Oh my God.
I know, right? Missed opportunity.
Oh, now your hair is much shorter now, but do you get people who stop you when they see you, that women come up to you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it used to happen a lot. Not as much anymore though, after I cut the hair. So.
Oh. All right. Well, they're not going to have you back though, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, it's great to talk to you, Mike. We appreciate it. Have fun this week, and we'll check in with you again.
For sure, Dan. Enjoy the draft, fellas.
That's Mike Renner, Pro Football Focus lead draft analyst and host of 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. Head over to pff.com. Use the promo code DRAFT30. Get 30% off any PFF subscription. Yeah.